Good afternoon. Welcome back to Passionate World Radio Network. Distinguish yourself from the ordinary. And today at 11:27 on Lillian's interview, we are talking to the author of Gutsy, Women Win. Please pick up your book and show them.
Yes, I will. Gutsy, Women Win. This is the book. My name is Pat Obuchowski. You pronounce it just like you see it. I know it's a little bit tough to do. And I just had my book launch on Tuesday of this week. So it's now on Amazon. It's in Kindle. You can buy it. It's soft copy, so you can carry it. It's light. And it's just a really, I believe, a really good, solid, inspirational, and motivational book. Gutsy Women Win.
How to get gutsy and get going. And ladies, now is the time for all gutsy women to come to the aid of the Women's Party. And what does that mean? It means that Pat and I are forming a group of gutsy women who want to discuss how to beat the system. And what system are we beating? The new 45th President of the United States. He slapped our faces virtually, and we're going in for the kill. And if you don't have stomach for this, then don't join us. But these are for women who want to make sure that the 150 years of women's rights are not going to be dissolved and go back to the 1800s and become a man's property. But that's something else. Today we're interviewing Pat about her book, Gutsy Women Win, and how she got the book published by a traditional publisher is a motivational story all of its own. So Pat, tell everybody what got you to pen the book and how did it eventually land up in the hands of a traditional publisher?
Yeah, I tell you, it's so fascinating. This is a book, I've been working with a leadership model that's called The Bigger Game. And it is all about helping people find their hunger and their compelling purpose, and then be able to leave their comfort zones that are no longer serving them for the sake of their bigger game. And by game, all I mean is, what is it that you're up to in your life? What is it that you can do that is intentional, that is, being conscious of what your next steps are? So I work with this model called The Bigger Game, which you can see back there. And I've been working with it for several years. And what basically happened is that I knew that I wanted to write a book about the bigger game to help not only women, but actually anyone have a model that they could use to get them into action around something that they wanted to do in their life, but maybe were fearful of, or maybe had those naysayers that kept putting them down saying, oh, who do you think you are? You don't have this, you don't have that. That sometimes really stops us in our path from doing something. So what basically happened is I started this book actually several years ago. And I've been writing and putting it aside, but last year around, I would say March of last year, I was having lunch with a girlfriend of mine, and we just started talking about, what we used to dream about when we were young women. And one of the things that she asked me was, what did you want to do when you went to college? And I said, you know what? I really wanted to be a journalist. I wanted to be the person that goes into war-torn countries and, takes photographs of the people and interview them, because I really, really believed, Lillian, at that time, that if people knew the stories about how war impacted people, everyday people like you, like me, like the people that are watching this, that if they understood how war impacts them and their families and their loved ones, war would stop. And she said, well, why didn't you do that? And I said, I wanted to go to Northwestern Illinois University, the #1 journalism school back then, and I just flat out couldn't afford it. In my family, blue-collar workers, it was just loans, forget it. You never had a loan scholarship. I want scholarship, but believe it or not, they said my family made too much money.
I can believe it.
No, I diverted myself, although I do have a 2-year degree, an undergraduate journalism degree, which I'm very, very proud of. But she asked me that infamous question, what's stopping you now? And I realized I was the one that was stopping me. So I pulled out my manuscript and I started just working on this again and got it out. And as I said, it was just launched on Tuesday. And how I got to work with a traditional publisher, it was actually several years ago again. I went online, I was looking at self-publishing, I started that route. And for me, because I really wanted this to be credible, and I really wanted it to read really well. And copy editing, of course, wanting to be a journalist is very important to me. Proper grammar, proper punctuation. So in my research, because I gave up on self-publishing too much work for the work that I do to really make my money. And Greenleaf came across through my conversations with other authors, and I went to them and sent them, the first 4 chapters, and they said, yeah, we'd like to work with you. So that's how I got involved with them, and they've been really wonderful through the process.
And that makes a big difference to have a traditional publisher believe in your work and believe that what you have to say is important and better said than other people who might also be working on a manuscript like that. And it really makes all the difference, whether you believe it or not, ladies and gentlemen, because you get credibility from the traditional publisher. So maybe you're not making a lot of money, but I suspect Pat is like me. She wants the credits. She wants people to believe and recognize her as an expert. And this is the person they need to go to should they want to follow their own gutsy path. Because not everybody really knows what steps to take. And you can spend a lot of your time on the internet or going through the library or going to conventions and talking to millions of people and still not get the answers or the proper steps you need to begin a journey like that. So when you set up your book, does a person read it from cover to cover, or does it make more sense for them to find a chapter that they can identify with and read?
Yeah, I think the important thing is that they understand the essence of the model. So I think it's important. I don't know. I find it so fascinating, other people's stories. And I talk about the model, which is, of course, on page 12 of the book. And there's a copy of the model. And I think it's important that they read at least that chapter, which talks about the model, which talks about the different elements. And the rest of the book goes through the elements of the bigger game through the lens of 7 women's stories. And I interviewed many, many women because I love stories. I love telling stories. I love being told stories. And I find so much inspiration in other women. And the women that I selected, Lillian, they run from the gamut from someone who owns a farm here in Northern California to a woman who is Jewish, and she couldn't figure out what was going on with this clash between Israel and Palestine. She didn't know and wanted to find out more. So she invited Palestinians into her living room as well as other Jewish people. And they came and they started to get into these conversations, and they really learned to listen and to understand through the lens of another human being. And this has become now a worldwide movement called the Living Room Dialogues. It's Libby Traubman. And it's just, the stories of these 7 women are just, again, everyday women who just thought, I'm curious about this, or this is the direction I think I want to try. It's kind of like, I don't remember who said that, but it's the one quote, don't die with your music left in you.
Well, the thing is that too many people do. And not that many people go inside themselves to find out what kind of music is being played anyway. And right. That's the real sorrow, is that there are a lot of people who hold themselves back and don't really realize that they do. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that I developed for myself to make sure I didn't fall into that pit was take a leap of faith. Yeah. Even if you don't have any, just take a leap. Don't worry where you're going to land, because you're going to be too busy looking around you as you're falling.
Right.
And I have never hit the rock bottom yet. And I've always met interesting people. And if you don't step out of your comfort zone, you won't ever know what may be right around the corner.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And how much fun it is in looking for that and finding that, and the amazing people that you meet along that journey. And it's that there's, one of the elements of the model is called gulp, GULP. And if you want to play a bigger game, that's a requirement. And by a gulp, it's just that scary, exhilarated feeling that you get when you're, like when you're going up on a roller coaster and it's going up, 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 and then you're at the top and you go, and that's the gulp, and then zoom, you go down. Well, the gulp is really integral to the whole concept of playing a bigger game, playing your bigger game. That if, feel the gulp and do it anyway, feel the gulp and do it anyway. So that makes it exciting. That's what makes it fun.
When people go through your book,
mm-hmm.
What do you find is the worst thing or the most difficult thing they need to get out of the way so that they can move forward?
I think that the thing that they have to learn to get out of the way is themselves. All of that self-talk that we have in our own minds about, oh my gosh, I'm too young to do something like this. I don't have enough education. I don't have enough money. I'm too old. I'm too whatever that X may be, that blank may be. But I find time and time again that it is just a fear that comes up. People start a game, start something, and then they only get so far. And then as they look down the road, they start defeating themselves. There's a quote I use that it's, stop defaming yourself and start faming yourself. And then they start feeling afraid of other people's judgments on them. And what basically happens with them is, people are going to judge us anyway. So you might as well just go along and do it. But I really think that we're the ones that stop ourselves the most. And I
think so. And I think we use our kids a lot, too, as what I called shields.
Oh, in what way?
To prevent us from sometimes going forward. I know that people have their kids, and I say, well, we can't do that because how are the kids going to handle it? Or how will it affect the kids? Yeah. Or will it hurt the kids? Or what will my parents think of me? I mean, I'm their only child, and I'm so responsible. And I listen to this, and I say to myself, well, what kind of shield are you using to keep yourself from moving forward? If your parents don't approve of you, I'm telling you personally, you're not going to win. It doesn't matter. You're never going to win, ever. Mm-hmm. Once I figured that out, I was home free. But a lot of people don't understand that. And the other thing is, your children are children. That's why they're still under your roof, because they are children. And they're looking to you to educate them, to protect them, to love them. But they're not there to keep you from doing what you need to do. In fact, if you talk to your kids, you would be shocked at them when you hear them say, Mom, go ahead.
Yeah, right.
And, it's very interesting.
Yeah, and here's the thing about being a parent. And I am not a parent and never had children. But from my experience and my conversations with both women and men that are parents, is that you are modeling the behavior for your kids.
That's it.
You are modeling the behavior. So if you're stopping yourself, guess what? That's the behavior that your children are observing. If you're saying, oh, I'm too afraid to do that, that's the behavior that your children are observing. I was talking one time to actually my dental hygienist, and she's been wanting, and she's gone through all of the training to get certified in a certain specialty, but she hasn't been able to set aside the time to complete a paper that she needs to complete. So I challenged her, and the way that I challenged her was that I said, you need to talk to your daughter and let her know that you will have this paper done by X date. And she's like, what do you mean? I said, your daughter's going to be your best cheerleader, your best accountability partner, and the best person that's going to say, how you doing, Mom? Where are you at, Mom? And I tell you, she finished that paper exactly when she wanted to. And she said it was one of the best things I can do because now I've modeled that behavior for my daughter.
Absolutely. It's something you have to take into consideration. My granddaughter, one of them is in a Sparks program here in school in Wyomington, and that's for people who are gifted and talented. But she's settling for one thing, and I said, how dare you do that? I said, not everybody has the gifts you have. You need to stretch yourself. You know, when your father was your age, and I get, oh, God, not again. I said, when your father was that age, he told me he wanted to become a janitor so he could pursue his arts. And I told him that there were people out there that was the only thing they could do to support their family. And how dare he take something away from another man or woman who needed that income to feed their family when he could stretch and capture the moon if he wanted to with his abilities and intellect. She looked at me and I said, have you ever thought maybe you're going abroad and maybe studying cooking perhaps in Spain or Italy or France? And she said, I never thought of that. And I said, well, if you're going to pursue wanting to be a chef, don't limit yourself to the United States. Go abroad. Go around the world. Go to China. That's where you're from. Taste the food. See if you can make it better. Do something with what you've got. Don't let those little gray brain cells die from lack of usage.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
And if she was just surprised, she says, Grandma, you're 65. And I said, yes. And one of these days, I'll probably get to Europe at 92. But what does that mean? Absolutely nothing.
Exactly. And I need to toss this in because I still think about it and I'm still amazed at it. Senator Dianne Feinstein, a couple days ago, she was in the congressional hearings. Then she was absent for one day and she was back the next day. She was in surgery the day that she was absent and got a defibrillator and was back the next day at the age of 82. So when people ask me, oh my gosh, they say I'm too old, I'm like, no, not an excuse. That's a comfort zone.
Yes, exactly. So Pat, please tell everybody where they can find you, find your book, and anything upcoming that you need to brag about.
Yeah. Well, you can, of course, find my book on Amazon.com. It's on BarnesandNoble.com, which I believe is .com. My website is GutsyWomenWin.com. You can reach me. Feel free to send me an email at pat@GutsyWomenWin.com. And oh my gosh, you can find me on Pinterest and Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn and Twitter. And it's all Gutsy Women Win. So come on and join the movement. Let's just get gutsy and get going together.
Absolutely. We can start in California or move our way east. Everybody who gets in our way.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Lillian.
Well, don't disappear just yet. Thank you all very much for listening. If you want to see this video over again, it will be on youtube.com/PWR Network LLC, but give me a couple of hours because it usually takes me that time to get everything done. So you'll see on twitter.com/@Caldwell, CAULDWELL, facebook.com/PWR Network LLC, googleplus.com/PWR Network LLC, and all the other wonderful social medias, Tumblr, Reddit, Blogger. Just go over and look for either Lillian Caldwell or PWR Network. Incidentally, that's the name of the website, https://PassionateWorldRadioNetwork.com. And one of my favorite phrases, put yourself in the path of giants to become successful.
I love it. Love it.
So thank you all very much for listening. Thank you very much, Pat. And remember, Gutsy Woman will be showing up in a neighborhood Facebook near you. Thank you.
Thank you, Lillian. Bye,
You're
everyone.
welcome. Bye-bye.